Hey everyone, welcome back to the next episode of the BitGo Vault. My name is Mike Gross, and I'm sitting here today with Dany Vaiman, the CFO of ZeroStack. Dany, thanks so much for joining us, taking some time to chat.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor and a pleasure, and I look forward to this conversation.
Let's just, off the bat, what is ZeroStack?
That's a great question. So we are a NASDAQ-listed, crypto AI-focused asset management company, ticker symbol ZSTK. And we have multiple assets in our portfolio. The biggest one at this point is a cryptocurrency known as ZeroG, Zero Gravity. It launched in September of last year, and we are, if not the largest, one of the largest holders of that currency out there. 21% of the overall supply, approximately.
Excellent. And so just for anyone that's watching, listening, digital asset management company, is that a digital asset treasury company? Is that what exactly does that mean?
Great question. So we started off as a digital asset treasury vehicle in September of last year. But what we quickly realized is that there's a real appetite in the crypto space and in the AI space to build and consolidate assets that relate to AI and to crypto beyond just holding, the asset and the coin, right? So we want to consolidate and build a conglomerate of different assets, different operating companies. I know it's a very high standard, but what inspired us is kind of Berkshire Hathaway and Warren Buffett and the way that he's built these self-sufficient, self-sustaining, sovereign entities that are all cash flow positive and that are under a single holding conglomerate umbrella. And that's what we want to do in the AI crypto space.
Interesting. So just to be clear, so you're purchasing, is it equity, or you're purchasing companies that are not, they have tokens, they're digital asset focused, or like what, can you explain what types of things those are?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a couple of things that we look at. So the first pillar that we really focus on is anything to do with artificial intelligence and AI. The second pillar is things that are related to crypto and AI, right? And the third pillar that we're really working on that's going to come out, in the foreseeable, not too distant foreseeable future is we think the next frontier is going to be quantum computing. And we are looking to see how can we integrate crypto and quantum computing, and how do we make an investment in that particular realm? That is something we're looking at. Those are kind of the main three pillars. Now, what brings all of this together is we're looking for profitability, high yield, for example. As it stands right now, we're earning almost 16% as of this date of our staking yield on our portfolio. And so we definitely are looking for high yield assets in those growing spaces. Because if you think about it, we are on the verge of a real industrial revolution. AI is transforming absolutely everything, from the way you book travel to the way you book your crypto acquisitions to the way you hire individuals. And we think that that is a real industrial revolution on par with automation, on par with steam, electricity, you name it. This is what AI is going to be. And quantum computing is the next frontier. So that's what we are looking at.
How do you see AI and blockchain, right? They like working together, right? A lot of people are saying like, oh, like AI or blockchain was built for AI. How do you, do you agree? Like, is there that marriage there?
Absolutely. And unlike marriages that end in 50% divorce, this is not going to end in divorce. I think what we're looking at is there will be an emergence of a particular blockchain, an L1 blockchain. We think it's going to be ZeroG. That's going to be the operating system for people's AI applications to go online, to be utilized, and ultimately to use the token as a medium of exchange on that blockchain. And that is precisely why our biggest and first investment is ZeroG. We think that is the answer to that particular marriage that you've brought up.
Do you think that there will be one winner? Like, for example, like you're saying ZeroG, right? Like, or do you think there'll kind of be multiple chains that are maybe interoperable, that they kind of operate in different, in their own different ecosystem?
Absolutely. I think there's going to be multiple players. We're looking at different opportunities as well. So 100%, there's going to be many players, just like Bitcoin launched the way for cryptocurrencies in general as a store of value, as a medium of exchange. We think ZeroG is going to do the exact same thing insofar as AI plus blockchain technology is concerned.
You're a CFO,
Correct.
right? So you have a very unique view into this type of thing. And I know you also spent some time in what we like to call TradFi. Right?
Correct.
With some time at Ernst & Young, I think, and others. What attracted you to becoming to work at a digital asset treasury company, right? Or which has obviously now
Yes.
evolved into other things.
Correct.
Why a dad? What makes that exciting for a CFO?
I'm still in TradFi. We're a public company on the NASDAQ. So one of the things that we're doing is, and why our partnership with the CEO works so well, is that he's a DeFi guy, I'm a TradFi guy, and we're trying to bring this, generational opportunity, this revolution in crypto and AI into the public markets. So there's no better way to do it than have, opposite complementary skill sets to bridge the way. Now, if you think about it, what could be more exciting than assets and values going up and down so quickly, so rapidly? You have the volatility of crypto plus the volatility of the capital markets, and those together make it a really fun roller coaster. And I'm a big roller coaster guy. I really enjoy riding roller coasters. So why not do something that you love, not just in your free time, but in your day-to-day?
I'm going to say this is for the audience, but it's actually for me.
Yes.
What does a CFO at a treasury company actually do? Like, what are your responsibilities?
Correct. So first and foremost, we got to make sure that we keep the company afloat and that we secure the right liquidity, the right resources, the right financial infrastructure for the company to achieve its objectives. The goal of a CFO essentially is to make the dreams of the CEO come true in a financial sense. That is essentially my number one job, and that involves financing, liquidity, cash management, asset management, and two, we have to comply with a wide variety of regulations for the NASDAQ, for the SEC, for US GAAP, you name it, auditors. There's this enormous compliance infrastructure, which actually is one of BitGo's greatest strengths, is the infrastructure, the security, the audit trails. And that is the second most significant point that we do beyond making the dreams of the CEO come true. And the third point is just running the business day to day. Supervision, monitoring of staff, motivation of staff, making sure that the company is operational and that the goals are being accomplished.
What keeps you up at night, though?
10 cups of coffee that I consume, that I consume every day. No, but not very much, and I'll tell you why. One of the biggest things that we have as part of our motto and our philosophy is that every challenge and a problem has a solution. And then we have a process and a system where we consult and analyze, and we have a very open dialogue in our management team. And whatever the challenges are, we're able to forecast those, look 6 to 12 months ahead, and try to look at solutions, contingency plans, succession plans to make those challenges and pitfalls to the minimum. It's not going to be to the maximum. There's going to be some problems that come up day to day. But ultimately, the philosophy of, there's a solution to every problem. I think that's an important pathway, and that's a pathway that we follow.
There's always a solution.
There's always a solution.
Yeah.
There's few things in life that don't have a solution,
Okay.
but business is not one of them.
Can you name any?
Well, the science is working on it, but mortality.
Oh.
We'll see. We'll see if there's going to be a solution to that. I mean,
Sure.
I've seen many different things that were completely unfathomable, whether it's identifying the gene that's going to lead to immortality, to longevity, to eradication of different diseases. I think that's a problem that hasn't been solved yet, but it might be solved one day. And it goes back to what I heard in high school. I had a teacher that once said, the majority of you are going to work in industries that currently do not exist. And at the time, I thought, what? How does that make any sense? I thought everything's been invented. We have a bus, we have a McDonald's, we have an ice cream shop. But the truth is, at the time, he was correct. And for most of my career, I actually spent in industries that at the time did not exist. And crypto is one of those industries.
Absolutely. And I mean, you're mentioning crypto, AI, quantum computing, right? Like, where we've already seen advances in healthcare from AI, and
For sure.
Like, anyway, maybe that's for another podcast. But
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, completely agree. I would love to hear a little bit about the journey of ZeroStack.
Yes.
So I know not to go back to health, but right, it was originally a pharmaceutical company. Is this
Correct.
correct? Can you kind of walk us through
Sure.
that progression and how a company like that like makes the transition, right? Like, this is a pretty big pivot. So, from an internal point of view, which most of us don't get, like, what did that look like?
Absolutely. So let's look at how this all came together. And for that, we need to look at the regulatory revolution that came from a new chair at the SEC, a new president, and a completely new infrastructure and a policy framework for cryptocurrencies. And while we've had some cryptocurrency companies on the stock market, like Coinbase, MicroStrategy, we haven't had that kind of blooming explosion and kind of a complete dispersion and an increase in those companies. And that began to happen in April. We saw a couple of digital asset treasuries pop up, and then people realized, wait a second, this idea works, this makes sense, this has a future. And so all these crypto whales and these crypto groups have decided, okay, we're gonna hunt for the right NASDAQ vehicle to take over, kind of do a transformation, and turn it into a crypto company almost overnight. And so Flora, which was known as, the company prior to that, was a pharmaceutical company. By the way, we still have that business. We still maintained it because under NASDAQ rules, you have to maintain your legacy business, so you're not deemed a shell company. And so we still have that business, and we sell Ozempic, Wegovy, and all kinds of weight loss drugs, speaking of health. And we were approached by multiple groups. One of them was the group behind Zero Gravity. They've put an offer on the table to transform this into an AI, asset management treasury company. We looked at all the options, and we said, you know what? This is where the future and the present lies, and we jumped all over it. And there's now over 300 companies in the public domain that have adopted either a full treasury strategy, an asset management strategy, or has added some degree of crypto on its balance sheet. And I think this is just the beginning, the scratch of the surface, right? A lot of people are saying crypto is here to stay. I think it's beyond that. I think it's not only here to stay, I think it's going to be, again, part of this transformational revolution in AI and quantum computing. And you're going to see more and more of it. Right now, you don't see enough actual crypto businesses, not just digital asset treasuries. BitGo is one of them that just went public recently on the NYSE. You're going to see more and more of it, where this entire infrastructure, this ecosystem of technology and innovation in the cryptocurrency space is going to make its way to the public markets. I think it's just a matter of time, and I think that's what we're trying to capture as well.
How does a digital asset treasury company, an asset management company,
Yes.
I keep correcting myself, where does the revenue come from? So, right, like, obviously you still have the pharmaceutical business.
Yes.
I mean, I don't know what you can say, but what percentage of the revenue actually comes from that
Great
business,
question.
and how much are you relying on other products?
Great question. Let me just outline that for you. From the pharmaceutical perspective, we have $35 to $40 million of stable, high quality revenue in the distribution, predominantly weight loss drugs, but also psychiatric medications, cancer, diabetes. That's 35 to 40 million in revenue per year. On the crypto side, we're now going to have the same number, only in tokens. So 35 to 40 million tokens in staking income that's going to be generated on an annual basis from us delegating. For those of us that are in crypto, you delegate to the validator, and the validator secures the network, sends blocks, does all these things, and then we receive rewards from the system based on the inherent inflation rate in the crypto ecosystem. And while the inherent inflation rate for ZeroG is 8%, the current APY is 16%. So if you look at our entire treasury, 210 million tokens, you multiply it by 16%, all of a sudden you have a very healthy business, a high yield business that is autonomous, self-sufficient, and really is the pinnacle of what asset management's all about, which is passive income, high yield, and sustainability of your operations from a cash flow point of view. And that is the most beautiful thing about crypto, is the emergence of the proof of stake concept that allows you to emulate what used to be a traditional asset management model. And then you have the capital appreciation in the crypto, but you also have the passive income that is being earned really in real time every day.
How do you manage the volatility, for example, right? So God forbid something happens where there's a black swan event and asset price decreases
Great,
by a
yeah.
lot. So how do you kind of hedge against that?
So first of all, volatility, I've heard Michael Saylor say this, volatility is Satoshi's gift to the followers. And the reason is, if there was no volatility, if crypto was a stable, asset, then somebody like Warren Buffett would just buy the entire supply and there would be no crypto. So I think we got to look at it from a positive perspective. It's a buying opportunity. Yeah. And the thing about staking is that up or down, the rewards get earned in the underlying cryptocurrency. So as the markets come down, maybe there's a black swan event, maybe there's some, precipitous collapse, we're still earning the crypto, and we're going to hold it, and we're going to wait for the value to recover and to appreciate. Again, to quote Warren Buffett, you haven't lost anything until you've sold. So unless we sell into it, it's just something we have to be patient, and as long as we have adequate cash flow and liquidity to weather the storm, we will.
Why did you choose 0G as opposed to obviously Michael Saylor is MicroStrategy,
Sure.
Choosing something like Bitcoin or one of these more established assets and chains? Why? What? I mean, you kind of touched on this a little bit, but why? We'll call it a smaller chain and token.
Again, it goes back to my concept of, we truly believe, our thesis is that AI in combination with crypto is it's the current industrial revolution. And while we love Bitcoin, we believe in Bitcoin, and it could very well be that we might store some of our excess cash in Stretch or some other instrument that, identifies Bitcoin as a store of value, as digital gold, so to speak. We think the utility of it being an operating system for AI and for applications to be built within that ecosystem, within the operating system, and using 0G as a medium of exchange in that AI operating system, that is the differentiator. And I think the only way to do that is you go to places where others have not gone, you come in at a low price, you come in at the beginning so that your returns can be outsized. And for Bitcoin, we love Bitcoin. We have nothing against Bitcoin. We think it's going to 10 million eventually. But we think the return on AI and 0G is going to be far more significant, at least in the immediate term, from this industrial revolution that we see.
What do you, when you are pitching this either to friends, family, other business colleagues, and there's people doubting whether what are they saying? Are they questioning AI? Are they questioning crypto? What are the biggest objections that you're kind of getting and that you're having to explain?
So first of all, everyone's objecting everything. It's not it. If you talk about crypto, people have been doubting crypto for as long as crypto has been in existence. But the truth is, Bitcoin has produced what the stock market had produced in 130 years. Bitcoin produced that in less than 15. Mm-hmm. So if anyone is doubting that, you look at the actual performance of the underlying asset, the speed and the compounding effect at which it earned the returns that it's earned. I cannot think of an asset that has done better than Bitcoin and better than crypto in my lifetime. If you look at the S&P 500, yes, it's done tremendously well. But if you look at Bitcoin, it's apples to oranges. And I'd rather have a large orange than a small apple. So Bitcoin has done phenomenally well. So if anyone is doubting Bitcoin or crypto, I simply show them, here is the underlying return. If they question volatility, I talk about the buying opportunity, the fact that it's good for us. If they question AI, I simply ask them, when was the last time you've used ChatGPT? When was the last time you've utilized AI tools in your everyday life? At that point, people are like, okay. The third major area of doubt is just general capital markets and stock market questions. And the stock market is by far still the largest vehicle for capital accumulation, the largest area to raise capital. And so we welcome people to look, even though I was doubtful of the S&P 500 and of that. The stock market has done well over the longer period of time. And so let's combine all of this together and you have ZeroStack.
Do you feel like your experience and your TradFi experience, how do you feel like that's influencing the way you approach this company? Do you feel like you are leaning on it, or do you feel like you're kind of just to relate to the art world, right? Like all the contemporary artists take the classic techniques and then kind of I don't know, like bastardize them a bit essentially and turn them into their own thing? Do you feel like you're doing that, or do you feel like you're actually like really? It's kind of like a very similar model that everything just you can kind of like copy and paste it into what you're doing now.
As a public company, the infrastructure, the rules, the regulations, the way the capital markets work, that doesn't change.
Right.
Like that is, it does change, but it doesn't change whether you're in crypto or you're in another industry. You have to comply with the same SEC regulations, and the US markets are the most robust. That's not going to change anytime soon, but they're also the most regulated, and that's also not going to change anytime soon. And so my job, in a way, is to normalize, is to take the DeFi elements, bring them into TradFi, and make them into an investable vehicle for those investors that aren't comfortable buying Bitcoin, that aren't comfortable buying 0G, that aren't comfortable using, DeFi tools. They want the security, stability, and the regulation that comes with the capital markets. And so if I can give that level of legitimacy, that level of regulation, I think we're tapping a very large umbrella and a very large market of investors that would otherwise either dismiss or be fearful or doubtful of crypto. And that's why the TradFi does. It legitimizes and brings crypto into the mainstream as far as the investment community is concerned.
What are the challenges that kind of are different from, from traditional market? Well, I guess everything's in a traditional market now, but like from we'll say a commodity to the digital asset space.
Well, I got some breaking news for you.
Yeah.
Just last month, the SEC decided and determined that crypto is also potentially a commodity. So maybe the differences aren't as profound or as robust as people like to think. A lot of people who are in gold and gold mining are very religious about it. They're very dogmatic about it, and they were very skeptical of Bitcoin and crypto from the very beginning. Guess what? They were all wrong. And anyone else that has anything to say about that topic, all I have to tell them is, look at where the price of gold has been over this period. Look at where crypto has been in the same period, particularly Bitcoin. And I think that will put people's concerns to rest. But in terms of the actual day-to-day, it's very similar, right? Like it's finance, it's accounting, it's US GAAP. It's very similar regulations and very similar things. And just like 50, 60, 70 years ago, gold was brought into the capital markets. Crypto is now being brought into the capital markets, except I think crypto has a lot more potential. I think it's a technology, it's an innovation, versus gold is something you look at with sunglasses. It's very shiny, it's very interesting, but I'm not entirely sure what the true value of that asset is in my personal perspective. I have the utmost respect for the people that I grew up with in that industry, but I've graduated from that world, and if I had a choice between Bitcoin and gold or 0G and gold, I will definitely pick the crypto. There's no question about it.
Do you have opinions? I mean, as a crypto person, I
Yes.
assume you have some sort of insight as crypto and finance person. There's
Yes.
insight into like the difference between something like Bitcoin and fiat, for example, right? And where it kind of fits into there's gold, there's fiat, there's now digital assets.
A lot of people have this belief that the US dollar or that fiat currency is the end all for everything in the world. But if you think about the actual tokenomics of a fiat currency, it has an unlimited supply. It has an infinite inflation rate that elected politicians and governors of the Fed can manipulate, regulate, and expand in perpetuity. And I don't know how that works. I mean, people love it, but Bitcoin is none of that. It doesn't have an inherent inflation rate. It has a fixed supply that politicians cannot regulate. And, pick one or the other. Like, I think that the fiat currency is one of those really interesting things that people believe in. But if you look at the tokenomics, there's just an infinite array to manipulate that currency. And if you look at history, not too distant in the past or in the future, you're going to see situations where fiat money is being printed without an underlying economic value attached to it. And when that happens, all of a sudden the assets that you used to hold are worth less, and there's nothing you can do about it. And so that is a problem that cryptocurrencies will solve, or that have already solved, and that's why they were created in the first place. But what makes crypto different is it has utility. You can use it as an operating system. You can use it to transfer value. You can do so many things with it, versus fiat currency is something that your politicians and your Federal Reserve governors will do based on not necessarily what's good for the currency, but based on what they think is going to be the popular dissent or the popular opinion, and what the politicians will accept. And I think that's a problem that a lot of us in crypto do not like to accept, and that's why we shift towards cryptocurrencies.
How did you learn about economics? Like where did you do your learning? Did you do your, because I know a lot of people, especially in the crypto space, went to YouTube University and kind of did their own research. How did you come to these conclusions?
Economics was one of my favorite courses back in university, other than accounting. I felt like accounting would give me a job, and economics would give me the pleasure of knowledge and learning. So I learned about all those things, and a lot of it made sense in a textbook setting. But the problem is, in reality, like I said before, there are certain things that are naturally inherent in the economic system, like deflation, like recessions, like pervasive depressions, that crypto accepts in the form of volatility, but the politicians in the economic system do not accept. So as a result of this one-sided perspective, all you see is perpetual inflation. And so to me, I was like, okay, so I go to McDonald's when I'm in high school. You could buy a burger for $1.99, and I don't think you can do that anymore, at least not even close. So it was more kind of looking at my pocketbook, look at what I'm buying, and stuff just never really made sense.
We'll shift back to
Sure.
ZeroStack a little bit. I believe I want to talk about jurisdictions, and kind of like, again, from the seat of a CFO, maybe if there is someone who's running a digital asset company, treasury company, how much does jurisdiction matter? I believe, did you just re-domiciled to Texas?
We're in the process.
I'm sorry.
We're in the process of re-domiciling to Texas upon a shareholder vote. Jurisdiction is very important. The wrong regulatory framework or a more restrictive regulatory framework can make a huge difference, and it could take a company from a very successful model to something that can very quickly collapse. We firmly believe that Texas is crypto-friendly, but what makes it different than other jurisdictions is the reputation and the wide array of corporate case law that is fair to business. I'm not saying it's overly business friendly, but it's fair to business. And what you're seeing is a lot of companies, even in the crypto space, re-domiciling to Texas. Coinbase just did that a few months ago, and we're just following suit based on the positive feedback and our analysis of the situation.
What are some other challenges besides jurisdictions that you have like specifically faced that, again, say a CFO may also in a similar seat maybe also be facing, that maybe you can like impart, your trial by error or whatever it may be, like what lessons have you learned from these challenges?
Yeah, that's a great question. And there's challenges every day, all the time. But like I said before, if you go back to it, you have to have the right philosophy and the right mindset. The biggest takeaway is you have to think of every problem with either a solution or a pathway forward. It may take time. It may take some time to implement that. Specific challenges. Look, not every company I've worked for has been profitable or from a friendly regulatory perspective, and so we had to learn of different strategies on how to manage your treasury, how to manage your capital, how to keep the company afloat in very difficult times. That is a very important lesson. As a public company, the biggest takeaway and the most important lesson is do not dilute your shareholders if you don't need to. A lot of companies, particularly in the DAT space, they are so optimistic and they just run the ATMs, they raise capital to the nth degree. We think that it's good, it's a strategy that works, but you should only dilute your shareholders when you absolutely, are doing it for a business acquisition or an accretive transaction. Otherwise, that has been my biggest takeaway, is that you minimize your dilution.
Do you think that there's, with being in, right, capital markets are very centralized, right? So having a company that is decentralized AI within a centralized capital market, do you, and as a crypto fan, do you feel like there's any type of paradox there, or like, like right? Those two things, they feel, when you say them out loud or you write them down, they feel almost contradictory.
I mean, life is full of contradictions. But if you think about it, if you look at how DeFi protocols work, they work by consensus, and they work by governance tokens, and they work on supermajority voting, and they work on majority voting, and governance tokens, possession, and things like that. That is almost exactly how you run a public company. You have shareholders, and they vote based on oftentimes supermajority thresholds. And so a cryptocurrency is like a public company. It's being held by token holders that vote and propose blocks through their validators, just like shareholders do of public companies. So decentralization, centralization, I think those are just slogans. There's a lot of similarities. Just like I said, the way it's controlled, the way decisions are made, it's very similar to the way a public company is being run with different shareholders, some of which can be centralized. You might have more control, less control, but the concept is very similar. It's governance tokens versus shares. And those are the things that drive both projects.
Interesting. So you're kind of just saying it's just a labeling.
Just a labeling
difference?
thing. It's just a labeling thing, yeah. I really think so.
Yeah.
I see a lot of similarities in the way protocols run and the way public companies run, based on consensus and either it's majority or supermajority voting, proposition of blocks, in the exact same way that shareholders in their annual general meetings or special meetings propose ideas, resolutions, and other concepts that get voted on and ultimately drive the future of the company or the future of the protocol in the crypto sense.
What are you really excited about in the world of AI? Like what use cases do you think are gonna, or get you like excited? You're like, wow, this is like really something that's gonna, that maybe can leverage zero G, or right? Like what gets you excited?
The truth is everything. I think that there isn't going to be an area of our life that AI is not going to impact, okay? And what really gets me excited is the use of large compute with infinite scalability and the use of zero G to replace that. So for example, you have these massive data centers, you have a lot of data that's being stored. I want to see a position where that information is being used using the zero G network, given its infinite scalability and the use of the token as a medium of exchange to transact and interact in those things. Once that use case is made, I think the value of the token, the value of the project is going to accelerate tremendously, and it won't be the first. It will be the first, but it won't be the last. So I think that's what really gets me excited. The other thing that really gets me excited is, as I said before, is quantum computing. I think a lot of people are talking about quantum computing destroying Bitcoin or destroying the security of the system. I think in the next year or two or longer, they will come and there will be a development of a project in the crypto space that's going to solve that problem. And it is going to be the quantum coin or the quantum solution, that this is not something, or this is something that can work together with quantum and is not breakable. And once that happens, I think you're going to see a full-out application of all those concepts across many other currencies. And I think that's the next kind of watershed moment. So AI plus quantum computing.
Amazing. Well, we're basically out of time, so I just want to say thank you. This has been a super interesting conversation. I learned a lot. I'm sure listeners learned a lot as well. So thanks for taking the time to chat.
Thank you. Much appreciated. My pleasure.